listening to the Marketing and Yoga Pants podcast, a podcast in sisterhood for female entrepreneurs that serves up savvy, actionable marketing advice and interviews with creative business owners who are in the trenches, building their businesses as we speak. The Marketing and Yoga Pants community is for you, the girl on her couch, in her yoga pants, top knot tight, hunched over her MacBook, trying her hardest to get the word out about her business. So in the name of supporting each other while supporting ourselves, bringing community, sound marketing advice, coffee, chocolate, and wine together for you, yoga pants wearing business owner, in a world where followers mean nothing, but paying customers mean the world, join us on this week's podcast episode and in our private Facebook group where you'll meet your soul sisters and build your business in yoga pants. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing and Yoga Pants podcast. I'm Brit Kolo, and I'm here today with just me. I'm back with another solo cast style podcast episode to take you into my reflection of the past year in my business. At the time of this recording, I am just about to hit my second year in business anniversary. And when this podcast episode goes live, I will have just passed it. So it's a good time, I think, to spend some time on the mic, reflecting back on what's been going on in the past year, my second year in business, give you kind of an overview of the big milestones that I recognize, my key takeaways from this year, so you might be able to glean some wisdom and insight into my experience and from my experience, and also get a peek at what's next, because I've been spending really the entire month of August 2018 on reflecting on my past 2 years, and honestly a lot. I mean, even past that, basically my entire life, because I'm that kind of person, and picking up on my takeaways and making plans for the future. So I have a peek at what is going to be next for not just my businesses, but also me. So that's what's coming at you today. And again, you know how I do this, solo cast style. I have a couple notes down, but none of this is scripted. I don't do scripts, you guys. I just get on the mic. I press record and we see what happens. So that's what this is going to be. If you are familiar with my story, cool. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it again, because I know that we have a bunch of brand new listeners that probably aren't familiar with my story. So I want to give a little context to this second year in business. And I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. There are other episodes in the archives that go into more details, but here's the Cliff Notes. All right. Before I started my business, I worked for a super cool company in my local area. I was born and raised here in this little tiny town in Northeast Pennsylvania. And I went away to Penn State University for 4 years, but then I came right back. I got hired by a pretty great and growing company at the time. And it was a physical therapy / fitness wellness company. I was first hired as a fitness coach. So I like to say, I kept the coach and I dropped the fitness, and now I'm a marketing coach. But coaching has always been in my blood. And I was hired first as a fitness coach, and I moved up through the ranks over the 4 years that I worked for that company. I learned a lot, not just about the company and how to show up well for them, but also was really taken under a few wings of different people to learn more about leadership and my leadership style. And, at that time I was like early 20s. I didn't know anything, right? I for sure thought I did, but I didn't, right? And I'm sure in another 5 years, I'll look back and think, my late 20s, totally thought I knew what I was doing, totally didn't, whatever. That's just the human experience. So I spent 4 years at that company, eventually working my way into the marketing department, kind of on accident, also kind of intentionally. It was a weird time. And I turned that marketing department around, made it a pretty well-oiled machine. And eventually, because I was in this world of of leadership and listening to leadership podcasts. And then those kind of morphed into business related podcasts. And I started getting connected with these people, these podcasts, these blogs. Back then I was listening to Amy Porterfield. I was listening to the Fizzle show and Pat Flynn and all these greats, and really seeing myself doing this stuff that they were talking about, building this business, doing your own thing, making a living doing something that I loved. And with all of these voices I had curated around me virtually, I made the leap. Let me think back here. It was August 1st, 2016 that I sat down with my boss and I told him that I was putting in my 4 weeks notice and I'd be leaving the company to start my own thing. I had no business at the time. I did have 2 virtual assistant clients, so I was kind of doing some stuff on the side just for these 2 clients, these little things, little assisting things. And through that experience, I had only been doing that for a couple weeks, not like I was doing that for very long. I just kind of stumbled into those opportunities. And then I'm like, wait, if I can do this, I can totally make this work, right? I probably hadn't even been paid by these people yet. And I'm just a headstrong person, you guys. It's just me. I just decide and I do it, and it's just how I work. So August 1st, 2016, I put in my 4 weeks notice. 4 weeks later, I left, and that was August 26th, 2016. And so that was just over 2 years ago now, as you're listening to this. And 2 years in business. One thing I for sure know is that you're told that the first 2 years in business are tough because a lot of people quit during that time. And for the longest time, I was like, that's not going to be me. Like, that's cool and everything, but that's not going to be me. I see why now, at least in my experience. I know it's not a rule that everybody has to go by, but I did hear that. I didn't believe it. But yeah, first 2 years of business, you are going to face a lot of challenges, and they could be enough to make you throw the towel in, but I haven't. I'm here, I'm doing it. And I have reflected back on my past year from, August 26, 2017 to today, August 2018. And wow, it's a very different year. It was a very big year for me in my life and in my business. Within my second year of business, I got engaged. So that was a huge life thing. I moved out of my home that I owned myself and in with my fiancé. After having lived by myself for a few years, completely by myself, me and my cat. So that was an interesting transition, if you will. And I also, I don't talk about this very often, but I do own 2 income properties now. And so within my second year of business, I purchased an income property and I turned my prior home that I owned and lived in myself, I turned that into an income property. So again, I don't really talk about that very much, but it did come into play this year. I think it's helpful for all of us, but I definitely realized it's been helpful for me to remember that it hasn't just been business this past year. Because if I only look at business, I might get a little discouraged, honestly, because it hasn't been easy. It's been difficult. There have been mindset blocks around money that took a while to get over, and mindset blocks about my worthiness that I've had to get over. Just so many things. And it's really been, the second year in business has been so much a year of asking questions without getting any answers. It's been a lot of pivoting. It's been a lot of big theoretical problems that I don't know the answer to. And then I'm just kind of working my way through as I can. And that's been business the second year. It hasn't been a whole lot of clear direction. It's been more like working through to hopefully find clarity, but sometimes finding it and sometimes not. So it can be really overwhelming if I'm only looking at the business picture. But if I look at both ends, right? The business and the life, and knowing that it has been a blend and giving myself grace around the fact that it's all been happening, it really takes the pressure off the business side. And I can't really focus too much on that and worry too much about that trajectory because there's been a lot of other things going on, which is helpful for me. I think it's very healthy for me to think that way. Not necessarily my natural tendency. I usually just like to look at business because I feel like I'm good at it and I feel like I can control it. And I don't always love looking at the life stuff, but I will say my second year in business has been a lot of me looking at the life stuff and facing it. And that has helped. That's helped my business big time. So I'll get to that. That's going to be part of one of my takeaways. But yeah, so that kind of gives you just a big picture overview. And then when I look at the milestones in my second year of business that actually had to do with business, a few, I think I listed down 5 really important pieces. And the first one that sticks out to me was that I got on a one-day Kick-Ass Masterminds call. It was kind of like a pop-up mastermind call. It was facilitated and curated by Sarah Christensen of Kick-Ass Masterminds. I just got on a call one Friday and spent the day with all these strangers. And one of those strangers was Jordan Gill of Systems Saved Me. And she said straight up, and I have thanked her multiple times for this, she said straight up, I hate marketing. And I thought, oh, dang, really? At that time, I didn't realize that the word marketing left such a bad taste in many people's mouths. I didn't realize that. And so she really opened my eyes to the fact that if you're going to talk about marketing, and if you're going to try to get people to actually enjoy the experience of working with you, you've got to know that a lot of people don't want to even talk about it, right? So that was a huge milestone. And that set me on a trajectory to understanding and really making the choice of, am I going to continue just talking about marketing and showing people how to do it? Or am I going to shift and show people how to do marketing in a way that's actually going to feel good for them? I had to make that choice. And Jordan's line of, oh, I hate marketing, really set me on that trajectory. I think the next real milestone that stands out to me was joining a mastermind group. This was huge for me. I am not one to buy all the courses, be a part of all the group programs, honestly, because while I think these programs and the courses look really good, the sales pages are so well written and they probably work for a lot of people, I get to those pages and I'm like, I think I can figure this out on my own, which is bad. I mean, I'm not saying that that's a good thing to do. That's just how I tend to be. So when I was approached with the opportunity of being a part of a more collaborative effort, it didn't have like a set step-by-step action plan. It kind of could be what you needed it to be in the moment, and you were able to get perspectives from other business owners. I just viscerally felt like that was more aligned with how I like to learn and grow and do business. And I say that also knowing that when I first joined my mastermind, I was really scared of getting those perspectives because I was worried that I wasn't enough to be in the group. I was worried that I wasn't far enough along, that my business was still too small and too young to be a part of a mastermind where I could help other people. I knew that they would be able to help me. I was worried of walking into a mastermind and then being like the weakest link. And I now realize that that wasn't true. That was just me not understanding my own worthiness. I also think it's pretty common for people to think that way. As they walk into a group atmosphere, they're worried that they're not going to be enough for the group. I definitely had that fear, and I can now say that fear was unfounded. It wasn't reality, and I was able to walk into the group. I was so welcomed, and I felt like I'm I meshed and I fit in from the very beginning. And through that experience, I've been able to find my own, a higher level of my own self-worth, not only as a business owner, but also as a human. That's a really big deal. I'm just now speaking that out and you get to hear it. But yeah, Kick-Ass Masterminds has been a huge part of this year, huge part of this year. The next thing that really stands out to me was after hearing Jordan's line of I hate marketing and starting to think about how I can approach marketing in a feel-good way, because I got really introspective and really started looking at exactly what was going on for my current one-on-one clients, I started recognizing patterns and what different marketing tactics worked and felt good for the different clients I was working with. And that's when I started connecting the dots between one's personality type and their best marketing strategy, a marketing strategy that would feel good for them. If I hadn't had that glaring issue of like, hey, not everybody likes this stuff, I would not have taken the time to really look between the lines and study what was going on with my clients and other people that I was talking to. But because I took a step back and I chose to listen and pay attention and look at the trends and find patterns, I uncovered the connection between personality and marketing strategy. Okay. So that was pretty huge. Now that you know my business right now, you're like, whoa, that was a big deal. I then shortly after that went through a huge personal growth vortex because I was faced with the fact that I wasn't comfortable asking for things. I could go into a whole story of how I figured that out, but I realized that I wasn't really comfortable asking for things. I was comfortable in making what I wanted happen. I could make a goal for myself and I could reach that goal, but I wasn't good at saying, hey, I want that and I'm going to go ask someone for that thing. I felt like I had to make it happen instead of just like asking for it to happen. And lots of mindset things to get over when you think about it. The question of, can it really be that easy? Is it worth it if I can just ask for it and get it? All that stuff. I've talked about that at length before, but somewhat radical thing. It felt radical to me. I did this thing in the month of April this past year where I made a big ask every single day of the month, as in an ask that I wasn't comfortable making. This involved business-related asks. This involved life-related asks. I really just stretched and worked my asking muscle, asking for things that I wanted. And it was a huge month of personal growth for me because through that experience, I got over my fear of asking and I got over my fear of hearing no. So if those two things are problems for you right now, I really highly suggest considering going a little radical here and challenging yourself to a 30-day asking spree. You got to make one big, scary ask a day. And that's what I did. And I definitely highlighted that as one of my big milestones in my second year of business. That really opened up a lot of opportunities for me. Maybe not in the ways that I expected the asks to open up, but they made a lot of connections that had I not done that in the month of April, I wouldn't be where I am today. Straight up would not be where I am today if I wouldn't have done that in April. And then, the final milestone that I don't think is going to surprise anyone is that I had the idea of connecting the personality type with the marketing strategy, and then I acted on it. And I'm proud of myself for doing that because it sat in my Asana for a few solid months before I actually acted on it. And once I did start putting things into play, it existed within a month. Still blows my mind. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just saying it's funny what lives within the folders of your computer and your Asana board and the notes app in your phone that have so much potential. And until you're willing to just do it, you don't know how awesome you are. So I'm really proud of myself for building that thing. And I'm okay with saying that. So that was really big in my second year. And If I could really sum up my takeaways from this experience, the number one takeaway is that the most powerful work and the most progress that I made in my second year of business did not feel like work or progress in the moment. It didn't look like me showing up for hours and hours on end to do work, although I did that. I'm not proud of it, but I am still a workaholic. I think I've gotten better. I think I've found a better balance and blend with that in my life. But while I still showed up for many hours on end and put in the work, I don't think that's where my business growth stemmed from, and definitely not my personal growth stemmed from this year. My business and personal growth stemmed from being vulnerable. In the moment, it felt like being vulnerable and being open and being willing to receive what I had coming to me. So I am kind of your typical person that likes to control things. And I think that I've really turned a significant corner in the past 12 months in being more open to not controlling and more willing to receive. Not forcing things, but allowing things. It's been a huge shift for me. If I take just one thing away from my second year in business, it's that. Better things come of me allowing things to happen than when I force things to happen. That's it. That's my takeaway. And now, as we sit here at the end of my second year in business, moving into my third, I've taken time to reflect, learn lessons again, really, think through and journal through and talk through the lessons that I've learned. And in this past month, in August, as I've been reflecting and opening myself up to the lessons that I needed to really absorb, I don't want to say stumbled upon, I've received a really interesting calling on my life and the work that I'm doing. Not something I think that you can force. I think we get callings and we're given little peeks into our future when we're supposed to receive them, not when we ask for them. So it'd be awesome if we could just be like, hey, can you tell me what life is going to look like in 5 years? Because I could really use that right now. I wish we could do that. But also I kind of wish we didn't, because it's fun not knowing. But I think in my willingness to reflect and be open and listen for my next bit of instruction, I believe I really received a great calling on my life. And that is, this feels very vulnerable, but I'm going to keep going because that's how we grow. I really truly believe that I'm here showing up on earth as a human to empower you to be your true self. Be the person you are truly meant to be. Let's be honest here, not the person that you think you should be, or your parents think you should be, or your spouse thinks you should be, any of that. Not, all those shoulds. Living your life because of shoulds is one of the saddest situations I think I've ever found myself in, and one of the saddest situations I see other people in. And that has become glaringly apparent to me in the past year. And really, as I look back on my life, that's been the trend. Like, if I know anything, if I'm an expert in anything, it's being an expert and figuring out who you are. And even though that's against the grain, still standing in that being. And so I recognize that I've been uniquely qualified to bring that to the world. And I really believe I'm here to empower you to be who you are, who you actually are at your core, right? So that's kind of big. It is big. And I've just uncovered that in the last month or so. I've been able to verbally process through that with my mastermind sisters. We got a really great chance to work through some of that at our retreat in August. And I continue to work through that in my brain and journal through it and understand it and uncover it and really not figure it out, but just become curious about it. And that's the stage I'm in. And so that I feel like is a huge, huge moment in my second year of business and now moving into my third year. And so what the heck does all of that mean for my business? At this stage in the game, this is what that means. I realize that my efforts within marketing personality types might alienate some people because they don't like being boxed in, right? Like, so some people will definitely automatically resist their personality type because they feel like it boxes them in. And I see personality types as the exact opposite. I think when you know a little bit more about yourself, you are that much more able to show up as your true self in your life. So when we become open to our personality type information and the Enneagram and anything that heightens our levels of self-awareness, we can show up in those ways. We now have the choice to show up in that natural way or continue living the life that feels unnatural and not great, right? So I see how this marketing personality type entity of my business really, really aligns with what I feel like is my purpose here on earth. And that's to empower you to be your true self and show up as your true self. And so being that they're so aligned, it would be crazy for me to not lean into marketing personalities, right? I mean, sure, I have a choice. I could still say, yeah, those two things align, and I'm still going to put most of my energy somewhere else. I could do that. I'm choosing now to lean fully into marketing personalities. I've seen, I think, just the tip of the iceberg of what marketing personalities can do for someone. I mean, I've been getting some really amazing emails of the validation and the permission that is wrapped up in this marketing personality type framework. And I mean, I just choose to lean into that fully, make that better and better and better, build that framework out, build that platform out, and continue getting it to more and more people so they can feel that those levels of self-awareness, validation, and permission to show up as they were meant to show up, as they were made to show up, as their true selves in business. So I'm leaning into marketing personalities fully. And what that's really going to look like on the back end is asking big questions about how to make the platform more robust and better for you as the consumer of it, right? And then on the front end, at least for the next 12 months, I've built a content strategy to really speak to marketing personality types and give you the tools that you need to not just know your marketing personality type, but also implement it in a way that feels good for you. So what you'll start noticing right off the bat, being that this is what's next for me and this is where my focus is, you'll notice the content that I'm creating and putting out into the world. So what that's going to look like is each month for the next 12 months, starting in September, each month will be designated a topic, a marketing related topic. And I'll talk about that one topic all month long. And how I'll do that is there will be a blog post about that topic published the first week of the month, another blog post published the second week of the month, really just giving you that look into what we're talking about, the topic at hand, giving you some tools to start thinking about it, implementing it, that sort of thing. And then the third week of every month for the next 12 months, I will host a free live webinar training. coaching you through how to use this one marketing related thing in your business if it's a part of your best marketing strategy. And that's the key here. I'm going to show you how to do these things. I'm going to coach you through them. And I'm going to preface it all with what personality types probably have this piece, have this marketing tactic in their strategy. So what I mean by that is I'm going to talk about 12 different marketing topics in the next year, and not all of them are going to apply to you, which is great, because there will be a couple months where we're talking about something that isn't a part of your strategy. I'm going to be completely upfront with you from the beginning that this topic is for these types. And if that's not your type, you can feel free to zone out, work on, look at your own paper, focus on the things that you know you need to be doing, and check back in next month when the topic applies to you again, right? It all needs to be prefaced with if this applies to your marketing personality type or not. So that's what I plan to do. And then from a business standpoint, all of this content will then be packaged up, and I'm going to create these bundles of trainings in my online shop. So for the next 12 months, buckle up, because I'm going to be creating a ton of free content. And then 48 hours after each live webinar, I'm going to package up that recording of the webinar along with the blog post, the workbook, extra bonus things. I'm going to package all of that up, and then that training will be sold in my online store. You, because you're a part of my audience right now, will be able to get all of these trainings live for free. And hey, if you want to buy the bundle later on, you could. That's cool, but you can get them for free now. And then later on, if you want to watch it back, you can pay for it. You can tell your friends about it, whatever. But you see what I'm building here with this content, right? It's building it to provide it and building it to sell it down the road. So when someone comes across marketingpersonalities.com in a year from now, they are validated and they're given permission to show up in the way that they're meant to, and how they were made to show up in their marketing, in their business, in their life. And then they're given the tools to be able to show up in that one unique, specific way, right? Which feels really good for me to provide. It's not something that I could just, snap my fingers and have all of this content created and ready to sell tomorrow. But I can certainly commit to a 12-month long content strategy that not only feeds you free content over time, but it also can be packaged into these paid products that can serve people well into the future, right? That feels really good to me. That feels very much like a legacy type of model that I'll be creating. And it all ties back to I am here to empower you to show up as you, as your true self. Oh, and that feels so good. So that's my reflection on the past year of my business. And that's what's next. I hope that you have enjoyed this peek into what's been going on and what's next. If you have any questions or comments or feedback on this episode, I would love for you to email me. I would love for you to email me and tell me how this episode sat with you. Because I feel like this was a lot. I feel like this was a pretty vulnerable episode to record and put out there for the rest of time, I guess. And so I'd love to know how it sat with you and what kind of impact it did or did not have on you. So I'd love to hear that. And of course, if you're part of our private Facebook group, you can always just create a post and let me know. And now, as I finish up this episode, there's one more thing that you'll definitely want to know. I'm getting married in a month. The day that this episode goes live, my wedding day is exactly a month from now, October 6th. Holy smokes. Wow. It's so much. It's so close, you guys. And I, way back last year, I want to say it was probably November or December of last year, I decided that, heck, I own my own business. I call the shots. I don't have paid time off. I just take time off if I want it. And I am the one that decides how much I get paid, right? So way back then, I decided I was going to take the entire month of October off to get married and go on a honeymoon, and then take a little bit of time at the end of the month just to not work and just be. And I feel really happy and proud of myself for seeing that intention through. I have zero intention to work during the month of October. I will not be working during the month of October, and that feels really exciting. I will go completely dark on social media other than scheduled posts that I have that'll go out. So my content, my blog posts will still be published because they can be scheduled ahead of time. I've got 2 really great assistants that'll keep that working for me. And there will still be a webinar training in October. It'll just be recorded. It just won't be live. And there will be some social media posts that are scheduled. But as far as live interaction with me, there will be none. And you might be like, wait, what? Can you do that? Like, aren't you scared? I'm not scared about that at all. I am so pumped. And I've chosen to be really public about that and take you into that because by doing this, I think that it could hand a unique permission slip to someone else that's listening to make her start thinking, or just really kind of help her and give her the permission to start thinking, could I do that? The answer is yes. If you're wondering, could I do that? Could I take a month off? Yes, you absolutely can. You can totally choose to do that. And guess what? Probably you're not going to die. Not because you took a month off, right? It feels really big. And for some reason, there's because I've talked to a lot of people, there's some fear around well, what does that mean? What if everything just doesn't work while you're gone? That's not going to happen. Everything's on autopilot at this point. It's automated. It's good. I've worked the past year to make that the case. I have 2 extremely competent assistants to take care of some logistic and technical things that I need throughout the month. But other than that, I'm good. I'm going to go living my life and not working for a month. And so that's exciting. That's coming down the pike. Hey, and don't worry. Podcast episodes are already recorded. They're already in the queue. They will continue coming out every Thursday throughout my sabbatical during the month of October. So you're still going to hear from me. It's just not going to be live, right? But that's exciting. And if you are, interested in seeing how that goes, I won't be keeping you up to date during my sabbatical, but I'll be back in November with some takeaways. And I expect to come back in November and do another solo cast episode like I've done here and bring you into how that was, what that was like. And I'm really excited about that. So that'll probably be the next solo cast episode that you hear from me, recorded sometime in November and probably will come out sometime in December. So that's exciting to think about. If this kind of gives you the inkling of could I do that? Answer is yes. Take that to the bank. Answer is yes. So, and I support you in making that decision. All right. That's it, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know how this episode sat with you. I'm interested to hear. And if you are part of our private Facebook group, which at this point, if you're not, what are you doing? Hop into the private Facebook group and let me know what's going on. Let me know what you thought about this episode. I'll be in there for sure, answering any questions, giving you more insight. So hop in there and I can't wait to talk to you there. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Keep the conversation going by visiting marketinginyogapants.com/Facebook, where you'll get to join that private Facebook group I've been talking so much about. There, you'll get to chat with our podcast guests Yeah, they're in there too. And all of the other brilliant creative business owners. We're connecting, we're meeting our soul sisters, and we're building our businesses, all while in yoga pants. So come hang out with us. Again, visit marketinginYogaPants.com/Facebook to get in. And one more thing. If you dig this podcast, would you be awesome and share it with someone? This entire Marketing in Yoga Pants movement is nothing without its community. So please share. And if you're really feeling the love right now, jump into iTunes. You're probably already there if you're listening to this right now. And leave us a rating and review. The more of those we rack up, the more the podcast will be found by ladies like you, and the stronger this community becomes. This episode was edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, so go find them at podcastengineers.com. This episode was also brought to you by my online marketing agency, Jam Marketing Group, and you can find us at jammarketinggroup.co. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Love ya. Bye.